Welcome to the Tribe Digital Marketing Series. Today we have a special guest joining us and a very timely guest, Chris DeMeo, the Vice President of Global Marketing from Workhuman. Chris, thank you for joining.
Josh, great to be here. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much. And we have our staple, Jamie Kermis, Principal from LeadMD. Jamie, good morning.
Oh, good morning.
All right. Well, we've got some exciting topics to talk about, and I think they're extremely timely, given the current environment that's surrounding everybody globally, not just nationally here in the United States. And we had a topic submitted to us via a LinkedIn user who asked about humanizing the workplace. And I thought, who better to answer a question about humanizing the workplace in a remote environment than Chris from Workhuman. So Chris, let's kick off there. What are some initial thoughts that come to your mind when you think about someone asking a question like that?
Sure. I mean, it's a great and important question. You know, as we all adjust to a new normal and find ways to work in this dynamic of being remote, which is a new experience for some people. I think the constant that I see and that we see at Workhuman is whether together in an office physically or working together in a virtual environment. When people feel connected to each other and when they can recognize the great work that their peers, managers, and colleagues are doing, a true sense of belonging increases. And through recognition, and really more broadly, when recognition is accessible to everyone, not just a manager and employee, or a senior leader and an employee, that sense of belonging really does surge. And belonging matters now more than ever to help offset some of the pitfalls of working remote, like feelings of isolation, feelings of separation, or feelings of anxiety that may emerge. From our experience, there's some really interesting statistics around recognition and how it creates a greater sense of community. We like to say that humanity loves company, and I believe it needs it more than ever now. And so when you look at when recognition is done from a manager to an employee, people have a sense of belonging, rated on about kind of high 60s, 70% relative to engagement. But when you unlock the ability for us, let's say Josh, Jamie, myself, if we all work together at different levels in different parts of the world, that sense of engagement, simply by allowing people to recognize each other, jumps to almost 90%.
Wow.
So the other exciting thing is when you give people the opportunity to offer recognition and to receive recognition, there's no diminishing returns. There is literally no ceiling on the amount of good, positive engagement, sense of connection, feeling of belonging to a workplace, to a work community that comes with lots of recognition.
That's super interesting. Oh, sorry.
I think the way to keep Workhuman is the way that we believe can do that through recognition, whether in person or perhaps even more now when it's needed more than ever.
Yeah, and so there's a kind of a real life example of differences on this show. So Jamie works remote full time, right? And you handle that through, you're on Slack, you're on Zoom, we do calls and things like that. On the flip side, I'm typically in the office 5 days a week, right? And then this whole thing happened with the COVID crisis, and all of a sudden I'm working at home. And in the first, let's say 2 weeks, I've got this jolt of energy. Mm-hmm. There's something different. There's something new. Like I'm cranking out content. Like I'm just moving, man. I'm full go. And then I felt this crash the last few weeks of just like, oh my God, what is going on here? So either Chris or Jamie, how do you keep that sense of just, are you seeing that? Is that a normal thing?
I think for me, it's awesome that you had that sense of energy, Josh. And believe me, it took me a long time to adjusting from working from home, because I prefer an office environment, but
Mhm.
just my circumstance, I wanted to move back to Michigan. That's not where Lead MD is headquartered. So, it brought me back to Michigan. But there are employees who didn't have that jolt of energy,
Mhm.
right, from the very beginning, because they're having to take care of children now, or they're
Right.
having to balance their spouse's work with their work, and they don't have a lot of open workspace or place for them
Right.
to do that. And so, I think it's a combination of, yeah, maybe there's something electrifying about being home at first, maybe of less of a commute, so you get more time
Right.
in your day, but then you're also balancing all of these other things. And so I think Chris's point about empathy and the sense of connection and belonging is critical there. And just making sure that you're taking the time to check in with people to understand where are you right now, and how is life impacting you. Lead MD, we're a small company, so um, we have a Slack channel that basically it's called Corona Life Updates. And we asked everybody to post, where are you right now with this? What are you dealing with that you didn't have to deal with before? And we just have that type of culture where we're transparent and understanding with people. And I think just meeting people where they're at and having that empathy is critical right now.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
mean, I would take a step back and share a really positive story from our marketing environment pre-COVID.
Mhm.
We spent a lot of time as a new team assimilating and learning how to work well together. We checked in often and did frequent pulse surveys to make sure that we all believed we were heading in the right direction. And it just so happens that just before we needed to adjust to a more remote environment, we saw our highest levels of engagement, positivity, and optimism in our workforce. And I share that because we had a platform of strength to go into this with. And with those feelings of trust and with those moments of gratefulness that were clear and present to everybody, that allowed the team to, I think, enter this in a more resilient manner. In fact, there's a ton of science around the fact that people who are grateful and get to receive gratitude are much more resilient to stress, because it's creating that human connection. That mechanism of connection is an offset to stress. Now, let's be totally transparent. Jamie's described 100% of the variety of circumstances that people find themselves in, adjusting to working from home, adjusting to working from home with a spouse or partner,
Right.
adjusting to working from home with a spouse and partner and one or more children or family members that you need to care for.
Right.
And that's thrown a whole bunch of new variables into people's days that they have to assess the best way to navigate. What we've been able to do at Workhuman is offer people strategies for navigating that, given forums and resources around resiliency. But ultimately, we've stayed the same company, the same people first company that we've always been, and encouraged people to do what is best and right for their whole self first. And at times that means playtime with your children, a mental break for some walk, exercise, or meditation, and continuing to be consistent and demonstrating that doing that is not only okay, it's highly encouraged, because it means you're going to be a happier human and a happier, more engaged employee. And that's not just hollow promises.
Right.
Our leaders are demonstrating those behaviors. People are taking time off. Um, and people can still take time off. It's good to have a mental health day. It's so important. So yeah, as people hit those walls, we have offered strategies to help them navigate. We have a weekly dialogue with the entire company around navigating these issues, and more importantly, focus the majority of that conversation around successful strategies for navigating those issues, to focus more on solutions. And I think that's served us well.
Yeah, it's interesting. The examples, and I think you described it when we were prepping, as self-care,
Yeah.
right? A lot of, and I don't know, everybody's personality is a little bit different, but I know for me, when I get pushed into this work from home environment. And I think back a few summers ago, my wife and I decided to spend a month on a vacation, not on vacation, but I would work remote for a month. And it was kind of miserable, to be honest with you. We're in this great place with beautiful weather and all this kind of stuff, that the reason we escaped Phoenix in the summer, but I found myself like locked in this bedroom working 2-3 times as hard just because I felt like I had to, because I was remote.
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't shut off. And my wife was like, why are you here? It's just one of those things. So I think that those strategies and how leadership communicates those strategies is super important. So, are there any other, real-time examples of things that you're seeing that people are putting those strategies in motion?
Yeah, no, totally. From a marketing leadership perspective, we had an annual plan that we worked really hard on. It was a very pretty set of PowerPoints, as strategy decks usually are.
Yeah.
And we acknowledged once this thing started to grow to pandemic levels, that our customers and our market, really the market, was in a different headspace than perhaps the plan had planned for. So we tore it up, and we said the right thing to do right now is to meet people where they're at, to come from a place of offering service, advice, and strategies to navigate. So for our customers, I think we did the appropriate thing. We offered our expertise in areas that we know around engagement, connection, and strategies to offset isolation. From an internal perspective, we built a set of short-term plans for our marketers that was all about being right with the market in terms of messaging, being more agile and nimble to match the market. And most importantly, I think the three things I would highlight are setting short-term goals, communicating often about progress against those goals, and then ensuring there's clear accountability and single points of ownership in any of the work that we do. Now more than ever, I think people want and need to know who's supposed to do what.
Right.
Because we all have a lot that we could do. So getting to clear roles and responsibilities and accountabilities has been critically helpful. And then we reevaluate. We look at the plan and we adjust. I equate it to for anyone who's a Peyton Manning fan. You line up. You look at the defense. You don't like the play that you called, so you audible.
The
right
audible,
there.
yep.
You audible. You go Omaha when you need to. But I think that's helped us be resonant. It's also helped us stay consistent with our brand, which is simply about helping people navigate strategies for unlocking the full potential of their human capital. And of course we have some tools that we believe do that best, but right now we're acting in more of a thought leadership service capacity. I'll share a story from my own personal life. This is all about perspective and a little bit of my philosophy on leadership. One of the silver linings for me being home is that I get to see a lot of early childhood development moments with my daughter that I otherwise would miss being at work. So, those first steps, the different giggles, the first couple of words, all of that has been invaluable to me. And so, with that, I look at this as a time to reflect, identify some new skills, be forced into working in ways that are uncomfortable for us because they're new, but ultimately those will yield new skills that aren't COVID specific. They're just great new skills and insights about how we work and what our customers need that will carry with us through and throughout, well beyond where we are today. So, it's humans that make history, not the other way around. And when there's uncertainty or when society stands still, it's the people who have the bold courage to step forward and make progress that really make a difference.
Yeah, no, it is a great story. And I can tell you that getting over that initial anxiety of your kids just being around all the time. I have 3 myself, and you're just like, holy crap, they're going to come into this call. They're going to do this. They're yelling, they're screaming. But then that sense of, oh, that person on the other side, kid just did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, they've got a baby, they've got a teenager, they've got this, they've got that. And then all of a sudden you do take a second to appreciate, I don't get to see them this much ever. They do some crazy stuff. This is kind of cool, you know? So there's, hey, don't get me wrong. There are moments of frustration and losing your mind, without a doubt. It's not all rainbows and unicorns, but there are some benefits, most certainly.
Yeah. And Josh, I think being okay with knowing that it's messy and that one day to the next is different. And if you can find humor in the, disaster that emerges some days. And so for me, I'll take my daughter to meetings with me, and she seems to have an affinity for whatever is in front of her on my desktop, keyboard, mouse, computer, notebook, iPad. They will ultimately either find their way into her mouth during a call or onto the floor, or some combination of both. So it looks like, an office supply store bomb went off at the end of some of the calls. But it's funny if you can find the humor in it. And
yeah, for sure.
It's also really, it's just the reality of what you're going through. So don't try to put a veneer up, just embrace it.
Yeah, no, I love it. You touched on something a little bit ago that's pretty much a core tenet of this show, which is, how do you pivot your marketing during this time? And, I think in a lot of cases, a point that you made was really telling people at every level, this is our core message that we're putting in the market. This is what you're accountable for. Here's your short-term goals and this and that. I think it trickles down into your sellers as well.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to say? What are we doing? What's our talk track? Those types of things, all things that are interwoven within the marketing department. But if you don't mind just getting almost a little bit tactical, like you said, you had a plan, programs were running, whether those are ad campaigns or nurture programs or whatever. Mm-hmm. What was the line that you drew in the sand? How did you address just putting the brakes on the plan or keeping things going?
Yeah, so I'm super proud of our leadership team. And when I say our leadership team, I'm talking broadly across all of the leaders at Workhuman, our sales function, our marketing function, and all of our customer facing teams. I think having a strong, cohesive, aligned leadership team is a bit of the secret sauce. Mm-hmm. Together we can tackle anything. For us, it was a really easy decision. We looked at our campaigns, we looked at what our customers were going through, and we said, we need to hit pause. Not forever, mm-hmm. not for a long time, but there's a little bit of risk that the message won't resonate right now. It will probably resonate in the future, right. But right now, we've got to pivot and activate around that idea of thought leadership and service around strategies to navigate and offer that to the market for as long as the market needs it. So, it wasn't hard. Right. It wasn't complex. It wasn't analytically driven. It was people need something different right now. And we need to help them with that. So, the things that we did in rapid succession were we built an amazing resource center around strategies and perspectives for navigating this crisis. And at a time when people's emails were chock-a-block with work from home checklists, mm-hmm. We did not want to compete with that noise. It's not, frankly, our space or our expertise. So we focused on the things that were true to our brand. We can offer strategies for helping people stay connected, productive, and engaged. No one was talking about that. So that was the lane of expertise that is relevant always, but most resonant right now. And I think in 20 days, we spun up 22 videos
Wow.
with frontline workers from healthcare, with industry experts and other thought leaders that were in our ecosystem. And we presented that out to the world. We started a global hashtag called Recognize the Good to help reflect out all of the great things that were happening and all the positive human moments that were happening. So at a time when the news was awash with COVID death maps, which is just such a, it's tough stuff.
Yeah.
We wanted to give somewhat of an offset to say, if you see something good happening out there, share it socially. And we've had over, 20 million views of that hashtag, from everything from, innovations happening in healthcare environments to help sterilize exam rooms more quickly through the use of ultraviolet light, to the little positive messages kids are putting out on the sidewalk and chalk writing, like, keep going,
Yep.
enjoy your walk, we're in this together. And, I think the other thing that we did, because it's something uniquely Workhuman that we were positioned to do, we offered some of our tools for free, and not free for like 15 days,
Right.
free for a year. So the couple of products there were ones that we call life events, which allows you to recognize birthdays, people getting over an illness,
Right.
anniversaries, really replacing the physical water cooler or cafeteria cake that we would all gather around
Yep.
with a virtual wall of celebration. And then I think on the kind of productivity side, we have a product called Conversations that allows managers and employees and teams to manage priorities, communicate in a contained platform together to stay productive and connected often. When we're all facing the text, the Slack, the email, carrier pigeon, smoke signal, like so many different streams of content, this centralized tool we thought was a way to help bring focus. And so we made those available for free. So I think, in stepping back, we wanted to do something socially good.
Yep.
And we've done that. We wanted to provide thought leadership. So we continue to do our Keeping Workhuman series, much like you have your Tribe podcast.
Yep.
And we've got some great tools that we wanted to make available to people for as long as they needed them. And let's hope we're through and through this at the end of that 1 year period.
Yeah, for sure. Well, how are you keeping a pulse on when to pivot again? What are those key indicators for you and the leadership team?
Yeah, I mean, so we talk to our customers a lot, and we try to move together with them. There is also an aspect of having some vision and watching the market and knowing when, gosh, it seems like the news cycle is really, really gone to a bad place for a number of days.
Right.
We've got to do something to offset that. I think the other initiative that was a real kind of fast mover for us was Thank You Healthcare. So frontline workers right now more than ever are doing so much good at such a high potential cost to themselves. We wanted a way to globally recognize them and celebrate. Locally, it's Mass General, Newton Wellesley Hospital, Beth Israel, people who have had a positive experience over the course of this with one of those healthcare facilities, but offer it globally. So whether it's a hospital in Ireland or somewhere else, we created that because again, we wanted to counter the COVID maps and the bubbles with something more positive.
Chris, I'm curious. So the original question that this LinkedIn user submitted was around keeping people engaged. And it seems like you've done an amazing job of pivoting and rallying your employees around things that matter. And you mentioned that you created like a bunch of videos and you got content out. And I know your team, I work with you guys. You don't have a huge marketing team. So how did you do that? Like, how did you get your employees to be so productive when you're used to being together in the office. And I mean, the amount of stuff that you guys have cranked out and the quality has just been phenomenal. So talk a little bit about how you accomplish that.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for the kind words, Jamie. It's simple. We cloned everybody, so we have 3 of everyone. It's an emerging strategy. No, I think, look, it goes back to we had a really cohesive crew before we went into this, and there's something incredibly fulfilling around being able to rally, to connect to a higher purpose, and together as a team, accomplish more than we ever thought possible. In fact, some of what we've said we would do is impossible, and the team is finding out how much fun it is to do the impossible. They've really leaned in. And the other thing I think that's helped is, I've talked about being transparent and honest with people, brutally honest, because that's all we have really time for. The first couple cranks of those campaign engines probably were messy, probably didn't have all the right people involved, probably had too many people involved, and probably took a little bit longer than we thought.
Right.
But the team has been able to develop playbooks and develop new muscles. And then just each subsequent time we did another one of those campaigns, another one of those videos, we accelerated through it. The team built runway for themselves. So I think the thing I would say to any marketers out there listening is, you don't have to have it all figured out on day 1, but if on day 21 you're still figuring it out day by day, there's going to be a sub-optimization of what you're able to accomplish. So for us, it was figure out what it is that we want to do, align on those key principles, do it a couple of times to refine it, and then hit pause, build the plan. Even if the plan is 5 days, execute through those 5 days while you build the next 5 days and the next 5 days. And that way, we're always in step with the market, or we have the opportunity to be as in step with the market as possible. And we haven't created too much intellectual or effort capital in the future that we might have to throw away, right? So that idea of fatigue or debt of effort, we've really minimized the amount of waste, because we're doing this in a little bit more kind of just in time versus the traditional sort of strategic arcs that happen over months and quarters. And when I step back and look at it, ultimately, when I compare it to our strategy, we have 4 major pillars. We are executing on those 4 major pillars. It's just the work and the initiatives behind each of those pillars is different than when we built the plan a few months ago.
So is what you're measuring now different than what you would have traditionally measured?
No, I mean, we want to look at the happiness and health of our customers. We want to look at our reach overall. And so the KPIs that we had aligned around are the ones that, drive our business and build our brand. Though the initiatives behind them have changed, those are our guiding lights. And, we're making good progress there.
So if you were to, think about other marketing leaders out there who are still figuring out what their voice is right now, what's the one thing that they should be thinking about?
Come back to who you are as a brand at a fundamental level, and operate from that place of strength, that core ethos. Said differently, now is not the time to change your brand, because if you have equity, strength, and a positive perception, that is how you're known in the market. If you feel like your brand could surge now because it meets the market where they're at, this might be a time to lean in.
Yeah, for sure. One last thing, what are your thoughts on the concept that I've started to see bubbling up around just COVID burnout in messaging?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the way I think about it is being tone deaf, right? So what we know and what we acknowledged was people get a lot of emails.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not naive to think that they only get emails from Workhuman. So my perspective is it's long since been a time to retire any COVID messaging.
Mm-hmm.
I think the world is trying to move towards reopening in some way, shape, or form, or more practically, and in the near term, managing and having strategies to navigate various aspects of fatigue or walls that people are hitting. So I would encourage folks to look a little bit more through the windshield than in the rearview mirror, because I think people are trying to move on. You know, and all great brands, when you look at you know, Apple and Google, they're doing things that are helping people move on. You know, whether it's, you know, different manufacturing lines that they're spinning up, or other initiatives. But yeah, I think you got to help people move on.
I love it. So what do you want people, what do you want people to know about Chris Workhuman before we go? Leave them with something great.
That is a high pressure, high leverage question, Josh. I did not see that one coming. So look, I'll speak from a place of personal experience. I've been a marketer allegedly for more than 2 decades. I came to Workhuman because of a deep personal passion I have around helping professionals achieve their full potential. That's what brings me fulfillment. As I looked at the next chapter of my career, I really wanted to align closely with an organization that shared that same mission, purpose, and value system. I believe fundamentally Workhuman does that. It helps people become their best selves, unlock their true professional potential, and become their best self. You know, I know that sounds a little bit philosophic, but people are the same people at work as they are at home. And if you have a good day at work, it influences how you are at home. If you have a good day at home, it influences how you are at work. So there is really something important to supporting the whole human. I believe our company does that in a special, unique, and powerful way. And I say that with true admiration for all the people that I work with, because it happens from the community. Like we all drive each other towards that. So you know, that's what I would say about me and about Workhuman. And I really wanted to reflect on that. So I think there was a second part of your question. What was the other part, Josh?
That was it. What do you want to leave people about you, Workhuman?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then you get 2 for 1 there.
No, it's perfect. And it seems like you found the perfect fit for you, perfect home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled. It's a great place. We have an exciting brand, and you know, if you do, you know, look at what we're doing, you know, to Jamie's sentiment, I believe this is some of our best work.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining this show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day. Happy
You
Friday.
too. You as well.